Chapter 19 Wallbreaker. Throw enough raw force at most problems, and they collapse. 28th of December, 2033, 4:47 AM. Folder Dominion, Battle Helix. Minor signature, C53171. Physical location, Phobos. The plan was simple. Braca, Luna, and I would push towards the stairwell leading upward, then retreat if things got messy. A larger force waited close enough to intervene, but the first strike belonged to the three of us alone. Braca's new shield gleamed the way only battle-untested armor can. From a distance, the stairwell could almost have been an Earth skyscraper. Up close, that image shattered. It was a fortress of dark stone and bismuth stains, and winged angels moved across its ledges like guards on a battlement. It was hard to be sure while I kept moving in and out of cover, but I thought I counted 4 aspects of wrath. As they often worked in threes, 4 visible probably meant 6. A winged armored angel looked like an aspect of diligence as well, though it was not using its invisibility. We ran across the scorched plain, weaving through the skeletal remains of burned buildings. Braca moved like a shadow. Somehow, even the gleam of his new shield vanished into the rhythm of his steps. Braca's stealth achieved little, because Luna marched with all the subtlety of a thunderstorm. She preferred to confront danger head-on. The stairwell spiraled above us, a sheer cliff of dark rock that morphed into obsidian towards the distant ceiling of this level. Angels perched on ledges with their wings folded, grotesque gargoyles carved from light. Luna gestured with her halberd. Her usually blunt voice dropped low. Braca, center. Elishia, right flank. Stay in the shadows. We'll draw them away from the main door. I'll take the left. Braca nodded, his pink hair bright against the grim stone. He disappeared among the jagged rock formations, the world aegis a muted gleam against the bismuth crust. I took the right, using the deeper shadows to mask my approach. The strange light, or whatever passed for light in this twisted realm, cast disorienting shadows. My foot snagged on a loose rock hidden in the odd shadows. The sound was quiet, but in the silence, it still carried. Above, a golden halo flickered. One of the angels, an aspect of wrath, unfolded its immense feathered wings. Its crackling lightning lance leveled directly at me. I hadn't seen these aspects use range attacks before. Unfortunately, there's the first time for everything. This is going to hurt, I muttered. Far too late. The air around me shimmered. Before anything could strike home, the world aegis hummed, and Braca was already there, sliding between me and the lance, shield raised. I thought Luna was fast, but she was new to her speed miracle. The lightning bolt fired from the lance bent midair and struck the world aegis instead of me. Blue-white energy erupted in a cascade of sparks, but the shield held. Braca flinched, but stayed rooted. You're bouncing back from that bolt quicker than I thought, off-worlder, he grunted, twisting the shield slightly. Of course I was. His shield had taken the brunt of it. The surge of energy funneled into the world aegis, then shot back out with a deafening crash. The reflected bolt struck the angel's chest. The retaliatory bolt wasn't decisive, but it brought me a second to raise my gun, and time for the miracle of calculation to compute a perfect trajectory. I squeezed the trigger. The angel roared an obscenity in Latin as a small volcano erupted from its chest, spilling magma down the outer wall of the stairwell. The angel staggered, then transformed entirely into a block of solid ice. It fell for a second and a half before shattering against the ground. My miracle of cataclysmic criticals had triggered, and one foe was downed, but it would be several seconds before I could use it again. Luna was already a blur of movement. She moved with impossible speed, her halberd a silver arc. She engaged a ground-based aspect of wrath that held a massive sword, her halberd deflecting a strike that would have cleaved any other human in two. Sparks flew as electrified metal met Luna's halberd. Another aspect of wrath leapt from a higher ledge, crackling halberd aimed straight at Luna's exposed back. From partial cover, I had no clear shot. Braca, left! I yelled. He did not hesitate. His shield, still humming faintly from the absorbed lightning, swiveled to intercept the diving angel. The creature slammed into the aegis, and it took all Braca's strength to shove it away. The shield tangled with the angel's weapon. Braca released the shield and lunged forward. He ignored his blade and struck with his shield hand gauntlet. The gauntlet flashed almost too fast to see, and the angel's breastplate caved in. It shrieked, a high-pitched cry that ended abruptly as Braca's elbow smashed into its jaw. The angel crumpled into a heap. Braca's miracle of brutality had made short work of it. Come on, Luna roared, her blade severing the sword-wielding angel's arm. We pushed through. The battle raged, the air thick with the smell of burning bismuth. Another aspect of wrath drove a two-handed spear at Luna's head. She parried. Just. Her halberd rung with the blow, but the force drove her back a step, then down to one knee. The angel pressed its advantage, spear arcing for a killing strike. The spear struck the ground where Luna's head had been a heartbeat before. She rolled into a kip-up and pirouetted clear of a follow-up thrust, but the angel's reach was immense. Its spear, crackling with raw electricity, swept in a low arc that struck her solidly in the stomach. She was hurt, but she'd live. Baraka hammered another angel, a whirlwind of barely controlled aggression. The Aegis had returned to his hand, deflecting a wild, desperate wing buffet from the new foe. He twisted, leveraging the shield's weight into a brutal, smashing blow across the angel's neck. The second to last sound the angel made was a sickening crack. The last sound, a muffled echo. Nothing would survive having its neck bent that way. My own shots were careful, each bullet finding its mark on the angel's armor, precise but not devastating. I aimed for shoulders, for legs, for anywhere that would throw them off balance for a moment. The angel pummeling Luna was close to her, too close for me to risk an accidental cataclysmic critical that might kill her as well. Electricity arced around its spear, building in intensity. The angel was winding up for a killing strike. Baraka saw the threat and launched himself towards Luna's attacker. He moved with the speed possible only with a miracle, the Aegis a bright streak. Another angel, wielding an electrified polearm, was momentarily distracted by Baraka's charge and didn't see me lining up a shot. The polearm wielder soared towards Luna's flank, a silent, deadly projectile aimed at ending the duel. Luna was already committed to a desperate parry against the spear strike, leaving her back completely exposed to the new foe. And this was my chance. I'd watched the angel long enough for the miracle of calculation to map its trajectory. I fired, and my shot found its mark, not in the usual eruption of fire and ice, but with a sharp crack that splintered a wing. The angel shrieked, fire-laced blood spraying from the wound. It tumbled, broken, towards the burned ground below. One less to worry about. Baraka reached Luna's opponent, forcing it onto the defensive. His movements were a blur of pink hair and gleaming shield. He pressed the attack, the Aegis deflecting spear thrusts with casual ease. Luna, momentarily free, retaliated with a flurry of strikes, forcing the angel to give ground. The angel's spear connected, a glancing blow across her ribs. She winced, a second line of red appearing on her armor, and convulsed as electricity pulsed into her. "Baraka, go for the legs!" she gasped, forcing the angel back. He lowered the World Aegis. Then Baraka's miracle of alacrity propelled him forward low and fast. He spun, his shield sweeping low, and the angel's legs buckled. It stumbled, balance lost, and its spear clattered uselessly against the bismuth-stained ground as it fought to regain balance. In a real stroke of luck for us, the spear rolled meters away. Disarmed, the angel was no longer nearly as dangerous as it had been. Baraka pressed his advantage, driving the Aegis into it again before following up with a brutal sword strike to the head. The angel crumpled, either unconscious or dead. Luna, seizing the moment, brought her halberd down in a wide, sweeping arc that removed any doubt about the kill. A cheer rose up from behind us as the backup force arrived, drawn by the sounds of battle. The shock of combat faded, replaced by the familiar throb in my mending left arm. Luna leaned on her halberd, breathing heavily, a wry smile tugging on her lips. Bloody hell, Elishia. Close calls everywhere. That second angel almost had me, if Baraka hadn't stopped it. She tailed off, shaking her head. "And you were a bit too close to that spear for my comfort, Luna," I retorted, holstering my Glock. "Baraka, you're a menace with that shield. Good thing it can take a hit." Baraka inspected a new dent in the World Aegis, his pink hair a wild mop. "It's a beauty, isn't it? Almost took my arm off when that first bolt hit, but she just shrugged it off, then gave it back with interest." He flexed his arm with a chuckle. "Still, I wasn't the only one who nearly ended up with a spear through my gut. Luna, you were lucky my alacrity miracle had enough power left to get me in the way." We downed 5 foes between us, and there was no sign of any more. Perhaps I'd been wrong to assume that there were 7 aspects total. We sent the backup force back to the fortress, carrying the 5 corpses and their weapons, and sat to recuperate while remaining alert. Luna unlaced her armor to examine the red line across her ribs. It was a nasty gash, a wound that might kill if untreated, pulsing with an angry purple tinge. 2 nasty hits to the gut that fight. That pirouette move wasn't my smartest life decision, she frowned, then recited, "Argentum amanda hoc vulnus." A soft silver glow emanated from her, and the wound shimmered. I watched, fascinated, as ethereal silver threads wove themselves over the cut, pushing out the faint blue taint until the skin beneath was almost unblemished. It wasn't as good as new, but it was incredible, surpassing even modern-day Earth medicine. It blew my mind how easily Luna could conjure stitches that applied themselves, keeping everything she wanted inside, and everything she wanted outside. That healing of yours is miraculous, I mused, an itch prickling my own silver-laced arm. Much better than the pitiful healing prayers I can manage. Yeah, well, you don't have any related miracles. Luna's next words confirmed something I'd become pretty certain about. I chose a defensive leader build, speed to be in the right place every time someone needed help, incredible senses to avoid surprise, and the most powerful battlefield healing miracle we know. I started to work out that most people get to choose their miracles, I replied. Luna's brow furrowed, her chin lifting slightly, as if she couldn't quite fathom how I'd managed to say something so blatantly obvious. She didn't utter the words aloud, but her facial expression screamed, "Well, of course that's how it works, Elishia. What else did you think?" I never got to choose miracles, my voice carried. Just days ago, I didn't believe any of this existed. Folded realms, miracles, magic, the system. We had stories like that, but they were just that, stories. I wasn't a fighter. I was an explorer, a scholar, travelling to new horizons we thought we understood. I could only speak a couple of words in the language of power, but one slipped from my tongue, and the fabric of reality warped around me. That caught Luna and Braka's undivided attention. We dominated our world with technology, not magic, I continued. How else could I explain Earth to someone living in a magical fragment of reality? We've mastered the seas, the skies, and the great distances of the world, and we were starting to explore the void of space. Braka blinked, skepticism written all over his face. You lot manage without magic? What do you do when monsters like angels or demons attack? We don't have monsters, at least not like these, I said, shaking my head and raising my pistol. On Earth, science reigns supreme. We have spacecraft, nuclear power, satellites, the internet, and most of all, we can mass-produce weapons like these. And weapons far worse. Luna interrupted, her curiosity piqued despite my unfamiliar words. So your world's technology is a system you wield in place of ours? Not entirely, I clarified. I'm starting to piece together the real history. I think that 2,000 years ago, the system worked on Earth, but people sabotaged it to stop a terrible leader from gaining enough power to end the world. That might be why you were locked inside this folded realm. I don't know everything yet, and I think our histories might have been falsified. Once the system was gone and there were no monsters, our tech just got better and better. In our world, everything feels rational and predictable. This world of yours is more unpredictable, but also feels more alive. Braka leaned against his shield, tapping it thoughtfully. You mean you don't have Seraphim trying to cut your head off all the time? I nodded. No Seraphim hunting us. Our conflicts are between people, but I fear we may have a war soon. Our two biggest countries are close to blows. These countries, Braka said, testing the unfamiliar word. How big are they? I thought for a while before answering his question with one of my own. We reckon numbers differently to you. You think in dozens, we think in tens instead. What are your words for big and very big numbers? Luna responded. A gross is a dozen dozens. A mite is a dozen gross, and a gola is a dozen mites. One of the things I still remembered from the International Mathematical Olympiad decades ago was a whole host of mostly useless but very fast arithmetic tricks. I quickly multiplied out what a gola was in my head. 144 squared would be 289 less than 145 squared, and 145 squared was just 14 times 15 with 25 appended on the end. After subtracting from 21,025, I had an answer. A gola is 20,736. We'd ticked over 360 million people recently in the USA. After doing some more mental math, it was time to shock. One of our big numbers is a billion. It's about 2 1/3 times a gola of golas. Two of the countries in our world, China and India, each have well over a billion people, almost 3 between them. My country, the United States of America, has just under 1 gola of golas. I didn't need a word to gauge Luna's reaction. Her wide-eyed stare said enough. Braka scratched his hair. We should learn about these inventions of yours, Elishia. Your weapons could change. Luna's eyes narrowed, and she interrupted. Be quiet. Something else is here. A heavy silence fell. The cheerful chatter evaporated, replaced by the tense alertness of 3 soldiers expecting a fight. Braca moved smoothly in front of Luna and me, his new shield held low but ready. Luna shifted her grip on her halberd, its polished head catching the weird, sourceless light. I drew the Glock, the familiar weight a small comfort, its grip cool against my palm. From the shadowed archway of the stairwell, it emerged. The new combatant was unlike any of the other angels, with their statuesque human forms and solid armor. This was a being of pure energy, a whirlwind of incandescent blue-white lightning condensed into hateful humanoid form. It crackled and spat, its shape constantly shifting, wings of arcing electricity beating silently at the air. It held no weapon, for its body was the weapon. Get ready, Luna breathed, her voice a low growl. I've never seen an aspect like this. It could be able to do anything. Braca planted his feet and raised the World Aegis to meet the threat. Let's see what it throws at us. I took aim, my mind racing. My cataclysmic critical was ready again, but the target was a storm of unstable energy. A direct hit might destroy it and dissipate the energy harmlessly, or it might have unexpected side effects. And that was if I could even land a critical hit on something so amorphous. The system overlay appeared, naming the monster a Seraph of the Storm. The Seraph of the Storm raised shimmering arms. It made no overt attack. The air itself began to scream, a high-pitched whine that pierced my eardrums. The archway filled with a blinding storm of lightning, a wall of destruction surging towards us. There was no dodging. There was no escape. Braca stepped forward. Behind me, he roared. The Seraph of the Storm surged forward, and the storm came with it. The most terrifying thunderclap I'd ever heard arrived with it, a single rumbling blast that punched through my chest and into my heart. Lightning tore outward in branching arcs, and the air tightened. My breath caught in my throat. The sensation was partly pain and partly fear, gnawing at my mind, just as the Mirror Seraph's glare had.
You cannot win.
The thought wasn't mine, but it was in my head. My grip loosened. The miracle of calculation worked in overdrive, but it could calculate no solution where the 3 of us survived this calamity. Luna shouted an order, and Braca locked his shield into place to meet the charge. I broke and ran. I never made a conscious decision to flee. My body just turned, and without thinking, I was running away at full speed. Each step struck hard against the stone, accelerating me as though I could outrun despair. Part of my mind screamed at me to stop, to rejoin the fight, to help my allies, but panic controlled me. I could not force my legs to listen. Eventually, I regained control. I stopped and turned. My chest heaved as I fought to steady my breathing. My hands trembled, my grip unreliable on the Glock I still held. The battlefield lay hundreds of meters behind me. What had I just done? I hadn't needed or wanted to flee. I turned back towards the fight, forcing myself to take one step, then another, each pace a supreme effort of will. The mental pressure had receded, but not vanished entirely. Far ahead, the World Aegis met the storm. The tetrahedral patterns etched into its bismuth surface blazed gold and violet. The lightning spirit was not deflected by the shield. It was drawn in and utterly consumed. The storm front bent inwards, funneling into the center of the Aegis like water down a drain. The air screamed as a torrent of energy vanished into the shield, the sound pitching higher and higher until it passed beyond hearing. Before I closed a quarter of the distance back, the Seraph of the Storm let out a shriek of pure static, a cry of fury and disbelief as it was vacuumed into the heart of Braca's shield. And then it was over. My companions had won with ease, and they'd done it without me. The archway into the upward stairwell was empty. Braca stood there, shield arm trembling slightly, the Aegis's iridescent surface pulsing with an internal electric blue light. Well, he said, his voice a little shaky. That was different. Luna lowered her halberd, her eyes wide with surprise that mirrored my own. Different? Braca, your shield just ate a Seraph. A type of Seraph we'd never seen. I'd caught up by then, and butted in while the conversation was still not about me running away. Bismuth is good at dealing with lightning, and that whole Seraph was made of lightning. If it hadn't surged at you, well, who knows how hard it would have been to defeat, I added. Braca turned to me. That resolve attack hit you hard? I nodded. and checked my character sheet before replying. I took about 30 resolve damage, but a malady is still preventing me from properly resisting fear magic. I have over 200 resolve, but I can only resist as though I have 47. That's a bad one, Luna said. Melodies, or at least the bad ones, don't go away on their own. You'll need a major personal milestone or achievement to be free of it. I had a similar malady when my daughter was deathly sick at 5 1/4 years old. It only went away when she reached her 6th year. Not what I wanted to hear, but I couldn't think of anything inside the battle helix that would help recover from the stress of Natalia's betrayal. I'd just have to make do, and kill anything with fear magic quickly, if I could work out which foes had it. We approached the archway cautiously. Where the core of the energy being had been, something small lay on the scorched stone, glinting. It was a clear, fist-sized crystal bottle, perfectly formed. Inside, a miniature lightning storm raged, tiny bolts of blue energy striking the inner walls in silent fury. I picked it up. It was warm to the touch and vibrated with contained power. The system obligingly provided an overlay. Bottled lightning, D-rank treasure. An exceptionally pure concentration of pure elemental energy, a potent reagent for crafting and enchantment. I showed it to the others. A crafting material, I said, turning the bottle in my hand. No other listed uses. Braca let out a low whistle and gave his humming shield a respectful pat. To think, Joran forged this yesterday, and today it turns an angel into an ingredient for a new weapon. He shook his head, grin covering his face. I'm going to like using this new shield. We stood in silence. Braca's shield still thrummed, a soft hum of captured power resonating through the stone floor. Right then, Luna said, her voice tight with exhaustion but edged with triumph. Let's fall back. Hata and Rhea will be wanting a report. Braca gave the pulsing Aegis a final, satisfied look before lowering it. Gladly. This thing feels like a once-a-second course. We turned our backs on the silent archway and began the trek back across the bismuth-stained plain. The main force of 100 soldiers waited several hundred meters away. As we jogged, the tension of the last hour bled out of me, leaving behind only the physical aches. My newly healed arm twitched. I'd had more wounds in the last few days than in all the years since Darryl was born. Thinking of Darryl reminded me of how urgently I needed to contact home and my family. Time flowed 6 times faster in the battle helix than outside, so it hadn't been days in the normal world, but it had been many hours. Space Force was likely already contacting the China National Space Administration, asking the crew of Zhaixin to make contact with us. They'd arrive at Deimos within days. I'd have to find a way sooner rather than later. As we drew closer to the waiting soldiers, relief rippled through their ranks. Weapons lowered, tense postures eased. Hata and Rhea stood in front, their expressions unreadable until we were almost upon them. And then I saw it. The tight line of Hata's jaw relaxed, and Rhea let out a breath she'd clearly been holding. Report, Hata said, his voice a low rumble that dispensed with pleasantries. His gaze flicked over the three of us, taking in Luna's scorched armour, Braca's humming shield, and my battered state. Luna stepped forward, still guarded by 5 aspects of wrath and 1 aspect of diligence. A 7th foe, something new called a Seraph of the Storm, ambushed us from the entrance. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. Diligence escaped. All other threats dealt with. No critical injuries. A low murmur passed through the ranks. Rhea's scarred eyes crinkled in the corners. And you all survived. You continue to impress. This helped. Bracus hefted the World Aegis. The electric blue light still pulsed within its iridescent surface. It ate the Seraph of the Storm whole. Hutter's gaze lingered on the shield. Joran outdid himself. We'll have to give him a medal when he finally gets out of bed. He turned back to me. Anything else? I held up the crystal bottle. The tiny storm inside still raged. A silent, furious tempest. The Seraph left this. My system overlay calls it a bottled lightning, a D-rank treasure to be used in crafting. I held it out and made a request. Permission to keep it? It might be useful for making something else along the lines of that shield. Luna nodded her support. It's her prize. She earned it. Hutter waved a hand. Keep it. If you can help Joran make another weapon, or anything else like that shield, you can have every damn treasure we find. We'll secure this floor and await your signal. His eyes met mine. The stairwell is clear for you to proceed. We'll hold this ground. We'll push on then, Luna confirmed, her voice regaining its usual steel. Raka, Elishia, let's not give them time to reinforce.